Today's video, we're taking a look at some of the lists in Twilight Masquerade. Some of my favorites anyway. I'm starting with maybe my favorite. It's up there with Dragapult, but we're going for Blissey EX in this one. A few different ways to play it. I was trying to sort of, obviously with its ability, it can move around basic energy. So I was thinking of ways to flood the board with that. The options are obviously Magma Basin with fire, Dark Patch with dark energy. We've got Gardenias, we've got Baxcalibur. Baxcalibur feels a little too much of a setup. In this one, we're going for Magma Basin. So we are going to start with the 4 attackers, get them in shot there. The 4 Blissey EX. Like we said already, they've got Happy Switch. So each Blissey can move a basic energy a turn. This helps you loop your Blissey. So later in the game, when you've got 3 basic in play, you can just move them off. Sharon's your active, heal all damage. And then move another into the active. And most of the time, you're going to be moving one around though, so you can attach the double turbo and start attacking again. The attack itself, return, is 180. With a double turbo, it's 160. So you do need to be careful. Obviously, 160 twice into a Zard isn't one-shotting it. So you need to be careful when you attach the double turbos. You are one-shotting a Dragapult and anything else in the game, or two-shotting, I should say. The added bonus is you can draw until you have 6 cards in hand. So the fact that you have the built-in consistency via the attack does mean you can use things like Sharon's Care and not have as much of a drawback as some other decks do in the format. Obviously, not being able to draw with your support off a turn, this attack works perfectly. Obviously, built with that in mind, the Happy Switch again, moving basic energies around so you can keep Sharon's. And nothing's really going to one-shot you. You're at 300 HP for a stage 1. It's just an absolute monster of a Pokemon. We have got some tools in here that take that HP even higher. We've got the 4 Chansey. Now, this one, you could potentially use the new ones if Lost Zone stuff is popular. Obviously, 110 is one shot from like a Cramorant or something. So there are a few cases where the 120 might be slightly better, but this ability is just insane. Lucky bonus, if you draw it as a prize, you can put it on your bench and flip a coin. If heads, take an extra prize. Now, just the fact that this is an option is absolutely insane. You need to play Chansey anyway, so having, I think, the best version. I don't think Cramorant's that relevant where you're not going to play these. The fact that you have an option, even though it is a coin flip, even though you have to draw it off the prizes, the fact that it's just there, an opportunity, is just absolutely insane. Take an extra prize card. I really want to get this off in a game. This is going to be my aim with this deck. Once I've got that, I will retire it maybe. Depends how good it is. I think it is going to be quite good. Like I said, 300 HP, swinging for 2 shots into most things, consistency built into the attack, so you're able to just heal turn after turn, is pretty good. Now, when you Sharon's Care, it's pretty nice to put one of these fellas into the active. Tatsugiri, again, a new Pokemon from the new set. Let's get him in shot there, make sure he's in. One of my favorite from that gen. It's just a really cool looking Pokemon. It's got attract customers as an ability, which when it's in the active spot, you can look at the top 6 cards of your deck and reveal a supporter there. I think this is going to be, even just looking at the Japanese list so far, very underrated card. I do think we should see it in stuff like Giratina, Lost Boxes, just finding those Colrus, digging as deep as you can. Obviously, the 1 retreat works perfect with Rescue Board. Like I say, great in this deck. Obviously, you Sharon's Care with your Blissey, put your Tatsugiri in the active with a Rescue Board, and then you can dig for another Sharon's for the following turn. You can dig for an Iono. Whatever you need for that turn, this thing can find. The other partner I've not seen pop up in any lists. Like I say, this list is very similar to some stuff we've seen in Japan, but I very much made it my own. And this is one of those cards, the Squovit. Now, obviously, you've seen it in stuff like Charizard with Nest Stash. It can put your hand to the bottom and then draw a card. Why this might be good for Blissey is, if your hand is just absolutely full of jank, maybe it's full of energy, maybe it's full of Pokemon you don't want to put down, or maybe it's just full of supporters, and obviously you can only play the 1. Nest Stash them to the bottom, draw a card, but then Blissey EX is going to attack and draw you up to 6. It's just a really nice way to refresh your hand. Obviously, there's some matchups with stuff like Radiant Greninja. You're not going to want to bench both of these, but in general, they're some nice support Pokemon to have down. So if we're going the Magma Basin route, we obviously want the Radiant Heatran. That's going to take damage when Magma Basin hits it, and then it can swing for some big numbers later on. Or we use the Blisseys to move that fire energy to our attackers. And the other partner in crime is going to be Moltres there. Obviously, it wants damage on it as well. Swings for some extra damage, so it can hit 90 for 1 energy is pretty good if we want some single prize attackers. Most of the time we are just going to be using them to get energy onto our Blissies, but the Radiant Heatran, later on, if you keep moving them off, keep stacking the damage on, it can swing for some absolutely massive numbers. It's something they need to attack into eventually, and if they're trying to get through your Blissies, it's not something they want to do, so I think it's a nice card to have in the deck. We've got the 4 Iono as our supporters. Obviously, the other important ones are going to be the Sharon's Cares, so it had to be 4 of those as well. Just nice thick lines of supporter cards here. A lot of lists I've seen have included stuff like Arven, and I did have them in here. I will say this list has some wiggle room, so you could potentially put back in some Poker Gear, maybe a couple of Poker Gear, a couple of Arven, or a couple of Arven, or Professor's Research for the Crushing Hammers, which we will get into shortly. Obviously, yeah, Iono, keep dropping their hand, keep dropping your own, but you can draw back up with Blissey. We've got the 2 Boss's Orders, always important in any deck. And we've got the 1 Mela that lets you attach, when a Pokemon's been knocked out, it lets you attach a fire from your discard pile onto most likely your Blissey. And then very similar to Blissey's ability, draw up until you have 6. Now, we've got regular ball search, nothing too crazy here. We've got the 4 of in Ultra Balls and Nest Balls. I think you could go either way with this deck. I think Crushing Hammer's maybe not the best shout. It's not great into Chen Pao, it's not great into... I mean, a lot of stuff like Zard and Lost Zone run a ton of Super Rods anyway to get their energy back. It's really good into Dragapult. Obviously, that deck struggles to get energy into play. It's quite good into Charizard. Obviously, they have to accelerate via Charizard. So if you can hit a few of these, maybe combine it with the new tool, the handy circulator, to move energy around. Potentially, you could get away with it. But like I said, you can take these out. Go 2 Arven, 2 Poker Gear, so you're hitting those supporters more often. Make it a slightly more consistent list. And we do have the 1 of Enhanced Hammer as well. There's a ton of great special energy. We've got Legacy Energy coming out. We've got Mist Energy from the previous set. There's just good energy that we can get rid of. The Neo Upper Energy has seen some play, obviously with Dragapult, so that might be another one that you get rid of. Double Turbos, there's a ton of great special energy, so I think one of those is fine. 2 Vessel, again, if you drop down the Crushing Hammers or remove them entirely, you could put an extra Vessel in here. Finding your energy is awfully important. Got the 1 Lost Vacuum. Some decks run Hero's Cape, so it'd be nice just to still 2-shot those things. 3-shotting doesn't sound quite as fun. Obviously, there's other annoying tools like the new Circulator, which we just spoke about. Stuff like Rigid Band, just anything that's going to mess with our numbers. 2 Power Pads, so we can keep reusing those. Normally the Sharon's Care, but you could see a Mela come back as well. We've got the 1 Counter Catcher, the 1 Switch, 1 Rescue Board, just some ways to pivot our Pokemon. Obviously, normally the Rescue Board going on the Tatsugiri. Switch is just there. Obviously, Blissey having a massive retreat cost, it's nice to move them around. Moving into our tools here, we've got the Rigid Band. Just reducing numbers is always good. Obviously, if you can reduce stuff like the new Greninja EX, instead of doing 170, it does 140, which isn't a 2-shot into our Blissey. Isn't a 1-shot doubled, so it can't 1-shot it basically for weakness. Few good matchups of Rigid Band fixes. Handy Circulator, like we mentioned. If you keep the Crushing Hammers in here, I would keep this in here. Maybe even nice to have a second. Just messing with their energy where their energy is, removing some is a good combination. And then obviously we have to have the Hero's Cape in there. Absolutely mammoth card, 100 HP, taking Blissey all the way up to 400. Obviously into stuff like Charizard, they can vacuum it away, and I think we might see a few more vacuums in decks in general. We have got the 4 Magma Basin, obviously the only way to accelerate some fire energy into play. We've got the 1 Mist Energy. I've not seen this in any Blissey list, but I just think the idea is to be a tanky Pokemon, and there's stuff that gets around it. There's Giratina, there's Roaring Moon, there's a few different ways, so I think 1 Mist Energy is nice. Obviously with Enhanced Hammer, it's not as reliable, but making them use that so we don't lose stuff like Turbo is fine. And it at least gives us an option. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Sinnoh lists, but yeah, it's definitely nice. Obviously, Dragapult spreads energy, or spreads damage as well, so having the Mist Energy to protect some bench Pokemon like Squovit could be nice. Other than that, 4 Double Turbo, 5 basic fire energy. I think that's fairly standard. That's what I've seen in lists similar to this. We've not seen a ton of Blissey. I think it is going to be an underrated deck. I do think it is an absolute monster to deal with. I'm very excited to see how it does. Let me know what you think of this list in the comments below. Let me know how you've been playing Blissey. Let me know what other decks you've been playing or eyeing from Twilight's Masquerade. Let me know what you're excited for in the comments below. That's all I've got for this episode, so I will catch you in the next one.